The IS Alethea slipped out of FTL like a knife through silk, its starboard thrusters sighing as space settled around it. The system ahead shimmered, uncharted, unnamed, and profoundly indifferent to their arrival. Captain Mira Solano watched the readouts with the calm of someone who had already anticipated this moment in a dozen different outcomes. None of those outcomes included peace, but optimism was a regulation she hadn't yet discarded. Dr. Kenji Rao, meanwhile, was trying to fix the ship's thermal regulator with a fork and unreasonable confidence. Engineering report. Mira called from the command chair. Kenji answered without looking up. If the regulator overheats, we either cook instantly or freeze dramatically. I prefer a third option, but physics is being stubborn. At least we'll be memorable, added Deacon Dice Mallory, leaning back in his seat with the casual arrogance of a man who never let facts interfere with enthusiasm. You know what explorers really crave? Dramatic death scenes. Luna Gutierrez, the ship's xenobiologist, turned from the observation window. Her voice was soft but precise. Explorers don't crave death. They crave understanding. Some of us just cope with humor when the universe stays silent. The universe answered, not with silence, but with signal. It appeared first as a whisper on comms, a layered resonance, mathematical yet oddly melodic. The rhythm repeated every 16 seconds, then 8, then 4. The bridge grew quiet. Machines recalibrated themselves unprompted. Kenji swore under his breath. That's not background radiation. Something's responding to us. Mira straightened. Broadcast greeting, standard protocol. English and galactic trade. Luna, prepare linguistic analysis. Already running it, Luna replied, eyes narrowing as the sound coiled into something more deliberate, more focused. It's aware, not language, more like a scan, a probe. Kenji looked up sharply. They're mapping us. Before Mira could respond, every external sensor went blind. Displays flooded with static. Dice blinked at the empty screens, then at Mira. Did the system just decloak us? No, Mira murmured. I think something decloaked itself. Outside the viewport, the stars flickered as an enormous shadow materialized. A vessel, alien and austere, its hull rippling like liquid metal. The Alethea was dwarfed utterly. Something ancient now hovered in their path. The signal sharpened into a voice. Not translated, just understood. Human vessel. You were warned. You enter in ignorance. The price is blood. Dice broke the silence. Well, at least they're direct. Mira stood. Raise shields. Power main thrusters. Prepare diplomatic protocols. And do not arm weapons unless ordered. Kenji frowned. You think talking will work? I think shooting first guarantees failure. She approached the comm platform, posture poised and steady. This is Captain Mira Solano of the Alethea. We request dialogue. The alien response came with chilling efficiency. Dialogue was offered to humanity decades ago. You archived it. You chose ignorance. Kenji winced. I knew we should have updated the exploration database. Luna stepped forward, hands clasped behind her back. Maybe ignorance isn't always arrogance. Sometimes it's simply human imperfection. The bridge lights flickered. A tractor beam wrapped around the Alethea, dragging it toward the vast alien vessel like prey being reeled in. Terraforming alarms rang. Engine power dropped by half. Mira spoke lowly. They're not trying to destroy us. They want to examine us. Like a scientist studies bacteria, Kenji muttered. Or a warden studies prisoners, Luna added. The view of the alien flagship filled the monitors now. Towering architecture of obsidian alloys, engraved with symbols that resembled both circuitry and scars. Its presence was oppressive, regal, unforgiving. We could turn and run, Dice suggested, though his voice held no real expectation. We could, Mira said, but we won't. There was no bravado behind her words, just conviction, and a human trait the Dominion would soon learn to fear, adaptability. Moments later, gravity shifted as the tractor beam intensified. Dice braced himself against his console. For the record, he grinned. I promised my sister I'd call her after this mission. So for my sake, Let's not die poetically. Kenji glanced at him. If we die, I assure you, it won't be poetic. Luna spoke with sudden clarity. They're afraid of something. Not us, not exactly. They're afraid of potential. We represent a story they've seen before, and ended violently. Myra's gaze remained fixed on the alien vessel, swallowing the stars beyond. Then we'll give them a story with a different ending. The tractor field surged. Systems protested. Communications went dark. And the Alethea, ignorant but unbroken, was pulled into the jaws of history humanity had forgotten, yet was destined to challenge. The Scyther flagship enclosed the Alethea like a mausoleum welcoming a future exhibit. Metal walls folded open to reveal a docking chamber of clinical precision. No banners, no symbols, only functionality. As the airlock sealed behind them, Captain Mira Solano understood the message clearly. Humanity may enter, but only as subjects, not guests. They were escorted through a passageway by 3 silent guards clad in reflective armor. No faces, no features, only mirror-like visors. Kenji muttered, "Never trust a species that hides behind helmets. It usually means they don't like what they see in the mirror." Dice replied in a whisper, "Or they think we won't like it." Their escort said nothing. They never reacted, to jokes, to questions, to existence. Luna watched them closely. Even fear, in the Scyther, seemed carefully edited out. The humans were brought to a chamber lit by pale blue light, walls humming faintly with power. A figure awaited them, tall, gray-skinned, with pupils like silver needles. No greeting, only analysis, designation, function, purpose. The alien's voice carried no cadence, only command. Mira stepped forward. "Captain Mira Solano. Exploratory fleet, Terran Accord. We seek peaceful contact." The alien's gaze felt like being scanned by an autopsy table. "You were advised this region was forbidden. Your species discarded the warning." "Why?" Kenji glanced at Luna. Luna glanced at Mira. Mira simply replied, "We didn't discard it. We lost it." Dice added quietly, "Might have been filed under mysterious space trash." A faint pulse of light ran across the alien's temple. Disapproval? Curiosity? It was impossible to tell. Ignorance is not a defense. It is evidence. Luna stepped forward, voice steady. "Then study us. Learn what ignorance truly means to humans. It isn't malice. It's potential." A long pause followed. Then, "You are not executed. You will be examined." The 4 were separated. Kenji was taken to an engineering bay, a cathedral of alien technology. The Scyther expected him to be mesmerized. Instead, he was annoyed. "Beautiful," he muttered, inspecting a hovering generator. "But who designed your cooling? I've seen toddlers build better heat sinks with chewing gum." One guard tilted its head in confusion. Kenji smirked and began sketching improvements on a translatable tablet. Not sabotage betterment. His mind worked naturally in solutions. Creation was his oxygen. To his surprise, the guards watched with interest. Luna was guided into a quiet chamber filled with floating datapads. Scyther records, art history, extinction logs. One file chilled her. Species X01, eradicated. The only listed reason, excessive creativity. Threat level, cultural infection. She realized then what the Scyther feared most. Not weapons, but unpredictable imagination. An alien research aide approached, hesitant, not a soldier. Young, curious. Luna offered a star map from Earth, hand-drawn. The aide stared at it, then at her. For the first time, Luna saw something genuinely alien in this place. Wonder. Dice, meanwhile, had somehow started a gambling ring using scraps of metal and probability charts. Alien guards gathered around him cautiously. He rolled makeshift dice on the floor. "6, you owe me a shift change and a snack ration." One guard gestured that he had no mouth to eat with. "Then I'll take your shift." They complied. Dice wasn't dangerous because he was clever. He was dangerous because he was unpredictable, and aliens had no metric for chaos. Mira stood before the commander alone. No datapads. No devices. Only words. "For what purpose does humanity explore?" the commander asked. Mira considered carefully. Because silence bothers us. The commander narrowed his eyes. Silence is orderly. Silence, she said calmly, is a question. We're a species addicted to answers. The commander studied her closely, not with reverence, but respect. There are factions among us, he said finally. Those who see potential and those who see contagion. You stand at the threshold of judgment. Mira held his gaze. Then let us earn one worth remembering. Outside, the ship trembled, subtle but persistent. Power fluctuations spread across the flagship, like fractures beneath a glacier. Myra's team reunited, guided back to their docking platform under urgent alarms. Kenji smirked. They tried to optimize their power grid earlier. It's collapsing. They lack dynamic stabilizers. We can fix it in 30 minutes. Dice raised a brow. We're going to rescue our captors? Luna's tone was calm but firm. Mercy is the most human strategy of all. The chamber lights flickered. Shouts echoed through metallic corridors. Mira looked at her crew, her problem solver, her dreamer, her wild card, and nodded once. They moved with purpose toward the failing power hub. One alien officer shouted after them, "Why assist us? We may still kill you." Kenji laughed without looking back. You're assuming everyone does things for the same reason you do. As sparks rained overhead, the humans set to work, improvising tools, rerouting conduits, stabilizing a system the Scyther thought unsalvageable. Only when the lights returned and the alarm ceased did the commander appear again. His voice was quieter this time. "Humanity, we do not understand your nature." Mira replied gently, "You don't need to understand us. Just don't underestimate us." The commander stared at her, silver-pupiled eyes finally blinking. And something changed. Not surrender. Not alliance. Recognition. As the crew returned to their ship, Luna glanced back at the alien halls now lit by steady light. "They feared us," she whispered. "Now they're rethinking us." Dice cracked his knuckles. "I prefer being misunderstood. It's harder to aim at something you can't predict." Mira gazed out toward the stars beyond the docking bay. "They're deciding what we're worth," she said quietly. "Let's make sure they choose wisely." Despite their reluctant gratitude, the Scyther did not release the human crew. Instead, security tripled. Scanners trailed their movements like leashes made of light. The Alethea remained tethered, a guest in name and a captive in practice. Diplomacy had bought time, but not trust. Kenji noticed the change first. Every guard now carries a plasma rifle. Yesterday they had stun batons. That's not security. That's paranoia with a trigger. "They're debating fate," Luna replied. "Some want us gone. Others want us gone permanently." Dice spun a small sphere across his knuckles. "A tool, or perhaps a toy. I'm betting half their officers are trying to figure out what we'd do if cornered." "So what would we do?" Mira answered without hesitation. "We give them a reason to believe we're valuable alive." That strategy died an hour later. Luna accessed a restricted archive using the trust she had built with the young alien aide. The file was labeled simply, Termination Protocol. Inside were records, not theories, but executions. Species catalog, judged, erased. Their crimes varied. Their fate did not. Creative expansion. Cultural instability. Strategic unpredictability. Humanity fit every criterion. Luna said nothing for a moment. Her voice was thin when it returned. "They've done this before. More than once." Mira took the tablet from her hands. She read the list silently, jaw tightening. Extinction as a solution. Efficient. Elegant. Cowardly. Kenji stepped forward. "Are we next?" "They're still deciding," Mira replied. "Which means we still have influence. Until we don't." Dice tossed a sphere upward and caught it. "Then we make our case." Loudly. But subtlety died faster than optimism. That same evening, they were summoned by the High Council. 5 Scyther officials faced them across a suspended platform encircled by light. Cold air carried the gravity of verdicts. The first counselor spoke. "Human ingenuity is evident, but your variability is dangerous." The second leaned forward. "Chaos leaps in your minds." We cannot predict your future. Kenji folded his arms. Tell me the alternative is prediction through extermination. None of them corrected him. Mira saw Luna's hands trembling. She simply placed her own over them. No words, only anchoring. Then the third counselor spoke, a voice softer, uncertain. Long ago, a species like yours rose quickly. They spread our invention defiance. We erased them, and we have not dreamed since. Dice tilted his head. You killed your muses. The council chambers fell still. It was possible no Scyther had ever heard that sentiment spoken aloud. But the moment cracked when the fourth counselor announced, coldly, human ship will transmit Earth's strategic maps and military power. If humanity cooperates, species may live under supervision. Kenji raised an eyebrow. And when we're no longer useful, then you'll be archived. Dice snorted. Is that a polite way of saying buried? Mira stepped forward, voice unwavering. We cannot provide your request. Earth trusted us to explore, not to kneel. The fifth counselor slammed a fist against the table. Defiance confirms threat. Humanity follows the same pattern, creativity, then conquest. Mira met his glare. Or creativity, then choice. For a heartbeat, silence held the room captive. Then alarms wailed. Energy surged through the flagship's core. Systems spiraled into chaos. Kenji looked at his tablet, eyes widening. The power grid is collapsing again, but this time deeper. Their whole ship is minutes from failure. The youngest counselor turned sharply toward the humans. Can you stop it? Kenji didn't hesitate. Yes. Dice didn't hesitate either. And we won't, unless you reconsider your definition of humanity. Mira stepped forward. Our survival shouldn't be the only reason you accept us, but it may need to be the first. The counselors argued fiercely. Words overlapped, tempers clashed. No unity, no verdict. Finally, the youngest nodded. You may act. The crew moved with purpose. Kenji sprinted to engineering, Dice to auxiliary control. Luna worked with alien officers to stabilize cascading memory banks. Only Mira remained in council chambers, negotiating, not pleading. As the crisis unfolded, she spoke clearly and calmly. If you judge every unpredictable species as dangerous, you will die surrounded only by obedience and silence. Minutes passed like lifetimes. Then power gradually stabilized. Systems revived. Emergency sirens softened into quiet. The commander entered, expression unreadable yet altered. You saved us again. Mira shrugged. It was either that or watch you implode. Didn't seem productive. Dice arrived, grease on his face and smugness in his grin. They owe us dinner, or sovereignty. I'll accept either. The commander regarded them in silence, then dismissed the guards. A rare gesture of privacy. Humanity, he said at last. We no longer know how to categorize you. Kenji exhaled. That's the point. Stop trying to. Luna added softly. We don't need to be predictable. We just need to be possible. The commander nodded slowly, as though absorbing a foreign language. Possibility, he whispered. Our archives do not contain that concept. Then update them, Mira replied. The commander looked out at the stars, his voice low, uncertain, almost human. If we spare you, what future follows? Mira did not hesitate. One you can help choose. The flagship grew quiet. A choice had surfaced, untidy, terrifying, real. And like all human stories, it waited for courage. The Alethea was no longer treated as a specimen. Instead, it waited in the docking bay like a question the Scyther could not yet answer. For the first time since capture, the crew walked the halls without escort. The air felt less sterile, though nothing had changed physically. Only perception had softened. But uncertainty was not safety. It was merely space to choose. Captain Mira stood beside the viewport, watching the alien fleet shift slowly into a new formation. Not an attack pattern, not a blockade, a waiting posture. She turned to her crew. They're circling us because they don't know whether we're about to become allies or a precedent. Kenji leaned against the railing. Admitting they don't know might be their first innovative act in centuries. Luna added quietly. They're afraid of a future that isn't written in code. Dice flipped a metal gear between his fingers. Good. That's where humans thrive, blank space. The commander arrived, unaccompanied, mask removed. His face held creases of restrained emotion, as though every expression was an untested invention. The council is divided. Half believe humanity is worth studying. Half believe humanity is worth fearing. And you? Mira asked. I believe we should ask instead of assume. He approached the viewport beside her, eyes reflecting the scattered starlight. When you repaired our ship, you showed us your ingenuity. When you refused surrender, you showed us your spirit. And when offered a chance to watch us fail, you helped us live. His voice was neutral, but his throat tightened slightly on the last word. Luna stepped forward. Survival without choices in life. It's stasis. Stasis is safe, the commander said. It's also quiet, Kenji replied. And quiet gets louder the longer you listen. The commander studied them each in turn. Our culture erased creativity to protect stability. That decision anchored us for millennia, but I now suspect that anchor may be a noose. Mira nodded once, then loosen it. That single phrase echoed through the hall, untouched by translation. The alien lowered his gaze, as though weighing an invisible scale. Finally, he spoke. Your ship will be released. Not because we trust you, but because we must learn what trust requires. Dice grinned. That's the most human sentence I've heard today. The docking clamps released with a heavy metallic sigh. The Alethea powered its engines, a sound that suddenly felt like freedom wearing steel boots. As they boarded, the commander paused beside Mira. If humanity seeks allies, he said, choose wisely. Some empires do not negotiate with possibility. Mira replied, then we'll negotiate with conviction. The ship's ramp sealed shut. The crew took their stations. Engine power rose. Their hands moved with practiced confidence. But something had changed. They were not returning as escaped captives. They were departing as representatives of a future argument. The comms crackled. A final message from the commander. Human vessel, may the stars challenge you, but never tame you. Mira allowed herself the smallest smile. Challenge accepted. The Alethea departed the flagship, leaving no weapons fired and no promises made. Only potential. The Scyther ships remained still, silently witnessing something they had nearly destroyed. The birth of a new kind of diplomacy. Once clear of the fleet, Dice leaned back with a sigh of relief. And we didn't even need to explode anything. I call that growth. We may still need to, Kenji cautioned. Diplomacy is maintenance, and maintenance never ends. Luna looked out at the swirling cosmos ahead. We didn't conquer them. We didn't convert them. We made them reconsider. That's the rarest victory. Mira opened the ship log and began to record. Captain's log, final entry of the Alethea mission. We were pulled into danger by ignorance, ours and theirs. But ignorance is not an ending. It is a beginning of examination. We face an empire built on the fear of imagination. We did not overwhelm them. We offer them a mirror. Humanity's strength is not in prediction. It is in possibility. Our journey continues, not as conquerors or saviors, but as explorers who refuse to stop asking questions. She closed the log. No ceremony, no applause, just a quiet click. The sound of history recorded, awaiting its next chapter. The stars stretched into streams as the Alethea jumped to FDL. Beyond the viewport, the universe opened like a book turning its next page. Somewhere behind them, an empire debated its future. Somewhere ahead, another mystery waited for answers. Luna whispered the final words of the mission, gentle, steady, and entirely sincere. Blood and stardust, that's the price we paid. But look how bright we shine. The engines roared, and humanity, once judged by ignorance, traveled onward, defined instead by wonder.